Well, hello again and welcome back to the Prinz Eugen build. This will be part 11 and we're going to look at putting together the upper deck structure, which will include the hangar. That will not include the after director, rangefinder, the mainmast or the catapult and aircraft, which are all situated on or near the deck structure, but basically just the deck structure itself. So, let's get started. Now, I think this page 16 is a very good illustration of where we are and where we're going next. We've completed this upper deck section here. A lot of photo etch still to go onto it, but this in general has been fitted to the ship now. The forward superstructure element here, we've done a lot of that. It's now in sub-assembly state. So for example, we have that deck complete, we have that deck complete, and then we have various sub-assemblies for the conning tower and the command tower. The next area back from this is the funnel assembly, which goes in here, and then behind that we have another raised deck, the equivalent to this one, but this is aft, and it also includes the hangar and the catapult. So this part is the part that we're going to move on to next, and we're going to complete that certainly to that deck level and possibly in sub-assembly state to the rest of it. This part will be done next, and that will just leave the funnel as the main part that will still be to be completed. So let's now move on to this and start looking at the parts that go with it. Okay, so now I've got together these plastic pieces which are going to go together to form the upper superstructure, and it includes the hangar. So the way this goes together is we have, I'll move this out the road, we have the deck, which would normally be that way up, but because we're going to do an assembly process on it, we start with it upside down. Then we have a side wall, which fits in like that. I'll just lay it beside it because it's still got these big lugs on it that are still to come off, bearing in mind again that we've got to put it on upside down. So that will go on, it would fit in there, and on the other side, again bearing in mind it's upside down, that would fit in there. And then we have a front and a back. So the front piece sits there, and the back piece sits there. Then underneath this we have the hangar roof, and also three pieces which are the sides of the hangar. So that's what we're going to assemble now. What I'm going to do, and it on the plan, it is, yeah, this section here. That's it turned the other way around, and that's the hangar roof that slides back and forward there. And that can be assembled either open or closed, so we can put the hangar roof there, which would let it be open, or we can put it on there, which we would have it closed. And back to upside down again, over here, that's the hangar roof on the base there, and these are the forward end of the hangar that fit there, there and there. So that's what we're going to assemble. We'll need to do the cleaning up of the parts. I'll do a test fit with white glue, and I'll come back and we'll have a look at that and see if there's anything that has to be done to that. Well, this is the last piece that we have to clean up. These, by the way, are the tools that I use to clean them up. A pair of pliers, a couple of files, one slightly coarser than the other, and one of my knives with a reasonably short blade on it that's fairly stiff. So these are the tools I use. We'll come in with the first. You can have a look and you can see that on this particular piece, which is the biggest of the pieces that we're going to be working on next, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, and the same on the other side, 5, 6, 7, and one underneath there's 8 wee lugs that have to come off. And we'll just go ahead and do it, let you see how we do this. The first thing that I do is I try and get this parallel with my face and get the pliers almost onto the piece itself and nip onto the wee tag. Now when I'm looking down on that, I can see a black line or a space between the jaws of the nippers and the actual piece of moulding, so that I know that I'm not biting into it. But you've got to be a wee bit careful with this. So then you nip it, that's it shortened off, take the coarser of the files, and because polystyrene is such a soft material, you really don't have to do very much in the way of pushing it at all. You just stroke it, and that'll very quickly go down. You can see the wee pieces falling off down here. That very quickly goes down almost to the edge of the moulding. Then we go to the finer file and just finish it off. Try and change the angle a wee bit when you get to the finer file, because you don't want to work it all in the same direction. And I'm just running my finger over it now, because you can actually, well, I find that the finger will tell you when you're finished before your eyes will. Right, there we are. Now sometimes you can push some of the material over, so I just go over it with this wee knife and just check that there's no material being, see, a wee drop popped up there, nothing been pushed over, and if there is anything pushed over, just again, gentlest of strokes with a knife. That takes it off, finished. I'll go round and finish this and come back shortly. Now, I've tidied up all these parts that are going to make up this section here, with the exception of the roof. Well, they're tidied, but they're not brought into the assembly. The roof and the internal walls of the hangar, which all work in about here. That wee bit sits in there. It's all looking fairly nice. It'd be easy enough to assemble. What I did notice was that on the underside of this deck there are quite a few moulding marks, which is where they're expelled from the moulds. There's one there, but it's right underneath where a part will be glued on, and if I don't remove it, this will sit slightly proud. That's the only one that interferes. There's one on the opposite side as well. So what I'll do is I'll just remove these marks as well, probably with this knife, just to make sure that it doesn't push that slightly proud. And then what I'll do is I'll white glue it all together, and I'll come back to you and let you see how that looks. Okay, so here I have white glued one of the side walls onto the deck, looking from underneath again. And the next one we're going to white glue the second of the side walls on. They're quite good fits. I've taken off these moulding marks, and here we have the front and the back, or the bow and the stern plates, white glued on as well. So here, excuse me, here we have this deck level test fitted, and we've mounted on top the hangar roof. Now the hangar roof slides back and forward like that to give access into the aircraft hangar. We'll probably put it open. That's not fitted properly, but along these walls there's a lot of photo etch to be put on. There's a photo etch cover for the hangar roof, these parts there have to be removed and replaced by photo etch. And at this point here is where the catapult sits, and that is replaced by photo etch. There's also the aircraft goes on here, and that has photo etch parts on it as well. There are one or two other places where there's some photo etch. Here, for example, these boxes have to be removed and replaced by photo etch, and there's a couple of photo etch parts going here. When we get to some of the structures that sit on top of this, there's photo etch there as well, but at the moment what we're going to do is we're just going to concentrate on this part and any associated photo etch that comes with it. I'm fairly certain, in fact I'm 100% certain that there is, yes, there are wooden decks associated with this as well. Certainly from this point back, these cutouts there are for the after rangefinders which are on towers as the forward ones are. And I'm fairly certain that this is all decked as well, though I need to look into that. So there's quite a lot of decking to go on this, there's quite a lot of photo etch to go on this. The fit for the plastic parts that are here looks good. I'll just take this roof off. There are one or two wee gaps, but these will pull in all right with the proper glue. As I say, there are some photo etch to go on the side here. Same on the other side, it looks quite good. Some photo etch to go on here. But I think that the next step is to, just for your information, I'll bring over the model, the hull of the ship, and we'll see how this fits on top. Now this is the model of the ship as it is at the moment. Even this deck here is not glued down, it simply comes off like that. We'll put it back on just now though. Right, that's it in its correct position. We've got a couple of guns mounted on it, as you'll see. The two decks forward have been completed and they are also free. We've got the command tower and the navigation bridges there, also sub-assembled. Now this piece here that we're currently working on fits there. And the top of the hanger goes on like that. This area here is for the funnel. And you can see that these cutouts I was talking about earlier on the upper bridge there, these are for the after rangefinder towers. Forward rangefinder towers go here. So that's where we are at the moment. We'll now take this apart again and we'll reassemble it in its final form, and then we'll have a look at what decks and photo etch, well we'll leave the decks off just now, but what photo etch is to go onto it. Okay, so that comes off, and that comes off. I'll just leave this deck on here just now, and I'll keep it out the road so there's no damage done to it. Okay, so here we have the underside of the upper deck, and we've got the side walls properly glued in position. The front and back plates are ready to go on. The front is to our right, the back is to our left, and here we've got the internal walls of the hangar properly glued in position. All the side walls are in place, and that wee one just off the end there is going to be the internal front wall of the hangar. Here you can see it in place from above, and you can also start to see now that we've removed the moulded on boxes, and the two holes in the deck that you can see there where they're going to be replaced with brass boxes. Well, now we're going to have a look at what we're going to do with this upper deck in terms of Artworks wooden decks and Flyhawk brass photo etch. Now, let me start with the Artworks wooden decks instruction leaflet. And when we turn it over, we see that the part we want for this is part number 19, or deck number 19, and on the photograph that is this deck here, and the same on the other side. Straightforward, you would think, except for one wee minor point, and that is that when you come to look at the deck part number 19, and we'll just do that so that it can be seen. On the sheet itself, part number 19 is not one part, but it's three parts. It goes from there to there, and from there to there, and there are two little parts here which are separate. Now, okay, so I'm splitting hairs here a wee bit, but they might at least have got the instructions correct for it. However, it's not far out, we know what we're doing, and if I bring in the part itself, we can see that this deck here, with its two wee extras, will fit fairly well on there. You can't see through, but it fits there. So on the deck itself, it's decked, wooden decked, right from the stern all the way forward to about there, and from that point forward to here, it's a grating that seems to be the deck structure. The more observant amongst you will have noticed that I have closed the hanger roof. The hanger roof. But that, at the moment, is simply laid on top, and this in fact is the way that it operates. It just slid back and forward. Comme ça. Looking at the photo etch, the photo etch that applies to this particular deck is what's shown in this section. So ignore that, these are different decks altogether. Ignore everything below that, different decks altogether. But what we have is here. Now, on this deck, the most obvious part is the roof, the hanger roof. There is a photo etch part which covers the hanger roof. It's not a replacement, it just seems to cover it. Although, I'm looking at it at the moment, no, it'll just cover it. There are also parts for the inside of the hanger walls which can be seen when the roof is open. And this is, as I said earlier, I think this is the description of this is the thing that made me convinced to buy the Flyhawk set, because it's some reviewer or other had said that once the Flyhawk photo etch parts were placed inside the hanger, no other photo etch parts would come close. So there's that, and the same on the inside wall here. There's the hanger roof. There's a series of boxes on the deck. There are a series of boxes on the vertical surface here. There's a photo etch ladder, which I'll be leaving off at the moment until we do the main assembly. And there's a couple of wee parts here, and again the same on the other side. These are the boxes there and there. And all the parts that are needed I'll now bring out. That's fret E, fret H, fret O, and fret Q. The hangar roof, there are two hangar roofs. They are E13 and E14, and E13 and E14 are these. At least I think they are. I'm assuming they are. They're the only things that look anything like it. Yeah, that's E13 and that's E14. One part goes on, I'll bring this over, you can see, one part, E13 goes on the existing moulded in hangar roof, and E14 goes on the sliding roof. Now we'll just need to be careful to make sure that if we put that on there, this will still slide. However, that's them, and the other parts are the wee boxes, etc. Some pieces had to be removed, and I've already cut out, I'll put these to one side for a moment. I've already cut out, I'll just move in a bit closer so you can see what I've done. I've already cut out the moulded on boxes that were there and there, and as you can see, it's left holes. These holes will in fact be underneath the wooden decks, the Artworks wooden decks, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill these holes back up with a filler, just so that they're level, and if the Artworks wooden decks don't go quite up to the edge of these railings here, at least you won't see a hole underneath it. So I'm just going to fill these two back up again, and underneath these were in fact hollow. So I could see this was going to leave a hole before I even started. The others that have to be removed are these boxes here, and the same on the other side here. However, again, when you look in, you'll see that they are in fact hollow, and that's the part there and the part next to it. If I was to remove these, and I would have to fill that back up again, so what I'm in fact going to do is I'm going to leave these alone. These parts and these parts. One of the joy about photo etch is that photo etch either enhances or replaces existing parts on a plastic model, and so you've always got the choice of leaving them alone, not installing them. And this is a choice that has to be made all the whole time as you go through. Will I make it look better by putting these photo etch parts on, or will I not? And my judgment in this case here with these boxes is that I won't, because I may not get this cleanly off. It doesn't matter here. You'll see that there are scrape marks. I'm going to go in a little bit closer and still keep focus. No, not that close. Right. You'll see that there are scrape marks around here. This is where my knife is skidded when I was taking these boxes off. Same on the other side. That doesn't matter because the Artworks decks will be covering that. But here it's a different matter. If my knife skids and I gouge into the plastic here, I will have to start doing a filling and sanding operation as well to hide it. And I'm not convinced that that would make this area here look better. So I'm not going to put the photo etch on there. The other parts are two small parts that go here. Yep. Here. What they do, why they are there, I'm not sure. I need to have a look at Goralski's book and see what there is in fact there. I'm not sure what they are at all, but nonetheless I'll have a look at Goralski's book. I will put them on a thing because although they're small parts, they're parts D14. See if I can find them here. Is this D? No, don't have D out. Parts D14, but I'll have a look at them and see, but I suspect there'll be no problem in putting them in there. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the photo etch parts out, I'm going to cut the deck out, lay it all out till we have a look and see what's involved, and then that'll let us see what we have to do to complete this part of the ship. Okay, so here you can see the brasswork that we've done on the hangar. The hangar walls have all been covered in brass, and the fixed hangar roof. Looking forward, you can see the forward internal wall of the hangar with its brass plate on there. We've then given the afterdeck where there will be a wooden deck placed on top, a coat of mascal. We're intending now to
put a coat of primer over the deck, and the Maskell protects the deck underneath from the primer, so that when you remove the primer, the wooden deck glue will stick firmly to the deck rather than to a coat of primer paint. So that's been done, and then we moved on and we've given the whole of this assembly a coat of primer ready for the final painting. And as you can see, all the brass work has now been covered in primer, and you can't see that it's brass.
The wooden decks that I was talking about, whoops, I got that round the wrong way, go there. I won't push it right down because I don't want to damage it, but that's where this deck goes, and you can see that from that point there forward there's no decking, and that's because that's painted, and it's painted a dark grey. So the position that we're in just now is, let me just get this off without damaging it. It's better. The position that we're in now is that I'm about to airbrush this section with the lighter grey, and from here to here with the darker grey. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the top coat on, concentrating on the sides, because that's really the only parts that are going to get this light grey, sides and the back. I'm then going to mask off these areas which will be left light grey, and that is the sides and the hanger roof. That's the sliding hanger roof there. I'll do this one separately. So the hanger roof, there's a couple of bits that stick up there. They will be airbrushed pale grey, the side walls will be airbrushed pale grey. Then I'll mask these off, and I'll airbrush from about there forward on both sides with the dark grey. Then I'll remove the masking that's there, and that will allow the deck to go down. And then there's some odd wee bits and pieces of brass that I've got ready, the brass boxes for there, for example, which we'll put on at that stage. But the hanger roofs there and there are both now brass. I've put the brass parts down onto these hanger roofs. You can't see them because they really are very thin. But that's got brass on it, and that's got brass on it. So, that's the next move. Let's move that back so you can see. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get the airbrush, get it set up, and get some airbrushing done. I'll be back shortly.
Okay, so here we are airbrushing the side walls of the deck house now, both the port and the starboard side, and also the front and back plates. So, that being done, we also had to look at the hanger roof, so we did both the fixed hanger roof and the sliding hanger roof. And then we moved on and removed the Maskell, which had been down, and completed the dark grey, which is the grating. We then put the deck down, and you'll also notice that in the middle of the deck there's two white spots there. That's where I filled in the holes where we removed the moulded in plastic boxes, and these are where the photo etched brass boxes will eventually go. The dark grey, as you can see, is towards the forward end, and that's because the deck there is simply a grating. Moving on, we put the deck structure, we just laid it on top of the model, and as you can see, the model's now starting to build up and getting fairly complete looking, but a lot of detail still to be done.
Well, hello. That's been quite a bit of work. I've tried to keep these episodes, where possible, to around about 30 minutes, and I think we managed it fairly well this time. We've got the after deck structure done, and we'll be moving on in episode 12 to work on the associated areas round about this structure, that is the aircraft and catapult, the mainmast, and the after directors and the after conning tower. So we'll see you soon for that.